This video is an overview of my Scandinavian camping trek. Go watch the actual videos on my channel that document the whole trip if you haven't. I will discuss the map of my travels later, but first let's focus on my general impressions, since that is more interesting. Also, I will not be showing related footage of the trip in this video, because I wanted a place to put the footage I recorded in the old town in Stockholm and of the Baltic Sea. So let's go. One of the most notable things about northern Scandinavia is that it is very swampy. Everybody knows about the boreal forest, but I never knew that about half of the boreal forest is the boreal swamp. Anywhere where there is low ground, you are almost guaranteed to find wet, swampy terrain. And sometimes these swamps climb high along inclines, as long as the slope is gentle enough. But I guess it makes sense for the environment there to be that way, since there is so much snow accumulating during winter that when it all melts away in spring, there's too much water for the ground to soak up fully. So instead it gets soaked up by this soft moss that is completely saturated by it. On the flip side of this wetness, there are many lakes and rivers, so running out of water is never a concern. Another notable thing is that there are a lot of reindeer, and those things are not nearly as scared of people as deer and elk are. Alas, I haven't seen any moose or bears. I have, however, seen ridiculous amounts of mosquitoes, big mosquitoes. Cold-blooded creatures usually get smaller the closer they live to the poles, but mosquitoes seem to be an exception to that. There are also a lot of flies, ones that bite and ones that don't, but are still annoying. I have to wonder if this is normal, or if it is somehow caused by human interference. Because you would think that there should be plenty of animals and insects that would like to take advantage of such an abundant source of nutrition as this flying parasitic plankton. Perhaps because far northern and southern environments have a naturally low degree of biodiversity, they are more susceptible to being thrown out of balance by both natural and unnatural disasters. Perhaps just like redwood ants are overabundant in areas which have been recently clear-cut, mosquitoes may especially thrive in dense, dark industrial forests. It makes me feel sorry for all the reindeer and other animals that inhabit those lands. Interestingly enough, however, I have not seen a single tick, even though supposedly they do live in northern Scandinavia, but I have not seen a single one. I was disappointed to see that despite the vast areas of land, the land is still heavily exploited for industry. The areas that I've seen didn't seem much different from the industrial forests of Central Europe, where the population density is much higher. I have seen very few old trees. The forests are constantly cut down and not allowed to grow old. They are thick, dense, and essentially impossible to cross outside of man-made paths. The common type of tree in these industrial forests, both in the Arctic Circle and in Central Europe, is the European red pine, or the Scots pine, which can live for over 400 years allegedly. It certainly can live for much longer than it is allowed. The situation is probably slightly better in national parks, but not good enough. By not allowing trees to grow old, humans keep the forests perpetually juvenile and dense, which denies habitat to many species of animals, and also, ironically, makes it unpleasant for humans themselves to walk through such forests. Long ago, flying squirrels used to live across all of Europe, and nowadays there are only small populations left in select few parts of Finland and Estonia. The world has become very dull and sterile. And yet, despite all that, there still is beauty. I got to see the midnight sun, and I got to experience lower population density, which I always craved. Lapland is an extreme hard land for very hard people. It was a good place to pass through, and it would be quite something to experience living there for a year, back in the days before asphalt roads, power lines, and supermarkets always stocked with ripe bananas from Costa Rica. My journey lasted 23 days, from the 22nd of June to the 15th of July. In that time I've had 2 full rest days, during which I stayed put and not walked anywhere. I started the march in Kittilä, Finland, and ended in Jokkmokk, Sweden. I've walked about 440 kilometers, which is around 273 miles. The path you are seeing is not fully accurate, it is just an approximation. I don't use any apps that track my movement, at least not with my consent. I strayed from the roads here and there to explore the forests, and I've walked a few kilometers along the train tracks, if you remember from the videos. The entire time I was wearing my floppy, almost paper-thin sandals. I will admit that my feet did start to hurt by the end of the journey. I never walked this much before, so I don't have a frame of reference of how they would have felt in more conventional footwear. But it is certain that my sandals were definitely too thin. A sole that is about 1 centimeter or less than half an inch thick would probably be ideal. The sandals worn by Roman legionnaires must have been decent. Those guys marched across Western Europe in those. I wouldn't mind getting my feet into a pair like that. Another thing to note is that my backpack was far too heavy. Fully loaded with a fresh supply of food and water, it weighed between 18 and 20 kilos, around 40 pounds, which is about 30% of my body weight at the time, which is just silly. Just half of that weight would have been too much already. I was too cautious in my preparations, and I've packed some stuff I did not need. At least I got a good workout out of it, I guess. And that's all I have to say. Bye bye.